All right, let's keep responding to comments. So, Arthrodia says, this is great. Some grumpy whole life insurance salesman mad that their terrible whole life product is being exposed. Almost all financial experts agree whole life insurance is not a good investment. However, you design it to scam people. Thanks for the comment, Arthrodia. Appreciate alternative views. This is again on my Dave Ramsey series, where we, as part of our financial malpractice series, we covered a video where Dave Ramsey recommended a customer surrender whole life policies without digging into it at all. A few things. Actually, I don't think Peter and I were grumpy at all. Actually, we were pretty professional and even jovial in that video. So I don't think it's fair to characterize us as being grumpy. That might be a bit of projection on your part. So almost all financial experts agree. First of all, that's a bandwagon argument. Almost all financial experts were telling you right up until the 2008 financial crash that everything was fine. The housing market was totally fine. The stock market was totally fine. Nothing wrong, nothing to see here. The financial experts also have biases. Most of the financial analysis you see out there is just sales and marketing in disguise. And of course, most of them are in the Wall Street casino. Yeah, there have been plenty of times when pretty much the financial experts all had a consensus on something, and it turned out to be disastrously wrong. So, as Doug Casey says, in the world of investing, you're either a contrarian or you're a victim. If you go with the herd, you get slaughtered with the herd, right? Again, the purpose of all these financial experts is not to give you sound financial advice, right? So, why don't you take the same skepticism that you apply to me and whole life insurance and apply it to the mainstream financial world as well? You'll find out they also have biases. They also respond to financial incentives. They also will sometimes disguise sales and marketing as objective financial analysis, etc. But then again, you say almost all financial experts. Well, how are you classifying? Which financial experts are you talking to? There are plenty of financial experts out there who believe whole life insurance is a very valuable asset and can serve a very valuable place in your financial strategy. There was just a mainstream CFP recently who published an article about why whole life insurance can be a very important retirement asset and how it can help optimize your retirement in so many different ways by protecting you against downturns in the market, by protecting your legacy, by giving you long-term care protection, by protecting you from taxes, etc. So when you say almost all financial experts, well, it depends how you qualify who a financial expert is, and it depends which ones you're listening to. Simple as that. But again, that is a bandwagon argument. So I'm glad you're outing yourself as someone who is a follower. Because when you make a bandwagon argument like that, your argument is basically the crowd is doing this, so I'm going to follow the crowd. So you're acknowledging that your whole argument is basically saying, I just want to follow conventional wisdom. Whatever everybody else is doing, that's what I'm going to do. Everybody else was jumping into the housing market right up until the 2008 financial crash, and a lot of them got really badly hurt. Following the conventional wisdom is usually a path to disaster when it comes to finances. I would advise following traditional wisdom instead, which tends to be opposed to modern conventional wisdom, which again, when you peel back the onion, is really just sales and marketing in disguise. So take the same skepticism that you're applying to myself and to Peter Nelson and to whole life insurance and apply it to the mainstream financial world as well. You might come to some surprising conclusions. Here we go again. Whole life insurance is not a good investment. This is how someone knows nothing about whole life insurance. Yeah, whole life insurance is not an investment. Where did I ever say whole life insurance was an investment at all, good or bad? This again is the problem, is that whole life insurance, properly understood, and infinite banking, properly understood, does not fit into your investment paradigm. And so what people like this oftentimes will do is when something doesn't fit into their paradigm, they just knee-jerk reflexively dismiss it instead of taking a step back and maybe questioning their own paradigm and realizing, oh, this doesn't quite fit. Let me learn a little bit more. Yeah, whole life insurance is not an investment. This is one of the things that Peter Nelson would say about how you know someone doesn't know much about whole life insurance is when they say whole life insurance is a terrible investment, right? Okay. Yeah, it's not an investment at all. Okay. If you try and judge it like an investment, it's no wonder it doesn't look great. If you looked at your homeowner's insurance policy as an investment, you have to conclude it's terrible because you put all this money into it and you don't get anything out. It's terrible. It's just a money hole, right? And there's only a 4% chance you'll ever get anything out of your homeowner's insurance policy because there's only a 4% chance that anything bad will ever happen to your house. And of course, if you do get something out of your homeowner's insurance policy, it's not a gain, it's protecting you from a loss. Do we then conclude that no one should buy homeowner's insurance because homeowner's insurance is a terrible investment? No, of course not. Once you understand the purpose of your homeowner's insurance policy, you understand it's an extremely valuable asset, and the banks who give you the mortgage require you to have homeowner's insurance because they think it's so important. Yeah, once you classify whole life insurance properly, it is a great financial tool. And again, of course, they have to throw out the word scam. You design it to scam people, right? Whenever someone throws out the word scam, that's another sign that they're a very superficial thinker. They're going to throw out an incendiary term like that. They're assuming all kinds of things about my motive. Again, what you're saying doesn't fit into my financial paradigm. So I just knee jerk have to call it a scam because anything to avoid thinking. I don't want to question my financial paradigm. I don't want to question conventional wisdom. I just want to follow the herd. And anything that challenges my pre existing paradigm, I have to find a way to knee jerk, reflexively dismiss it and call it a name rather than actually listening a bit and thinking and saying, maybe my paradigm isn't quite right. Or at the very least, this other thing doesn't fit into my paradigm. And that really is the challenge with whole life insurance is that it does not fit into the Wall Street paradigm. Once you adjust your paradigm to be rested on more traditional wisdom, then you understand where whole life insurance fits in as your safe foundation, not as an investment, but as your safe foundation. But thanks for your comment, Arthur Adea. I appreciate it. And then Deep Fried Liver responds to him and says, did you not listen to him? Whole life is not an investment, it's insurance. Hammers are terrible screwdrivers. Both are good tools. Whole life insurance is just a financial tool. If you use it incorrectly, it's like hitting yourself with a hammer. I haven't heard that analogy before, but that doesn't mean it's not a useful tool for risk management. Thank you, Deep Fried Liver. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for defending me and defending whole life insurance. And yeah, of course, you're right. Of course, obviously, he did not listen to me. That's obvious. What they do is they maybe listen to a few words and they don't really listen. They just pick out a few code words and then they fill in the rest with all their preconceived notions. So this happens most of the time, right? They don't really listen to what you're saying, which is why, as an example, they cannot make the distinction between the infinite banking concept and whole life insurance, which are two different things. Once they hear some elements of it, they immediately jump to the conclusion. They fill in the gaps with what they think you're going to say based on their own misconceptions, and then they have a knee jerk reaction. Fred2123 says deep fried liver, whole life is not an investment, it's insurance. Agreed. Why then shouldn't you get pure insurance? I recently got quotes for a 30-year-old male on a 30-year, $500,000 term policy for $30 a month. A $100,000 whole life policy for $123 a month. The cost of whole life is 20 times the cost of term. So how do they justify the 20x premium if they don't call it an investment? Thanks for your comment, Fred. I appreciate it. First of all, I don't like, again, the paradigm is wrong. Whole life is not competing with term. Term is good. Term life insurance is perfectly fine. You can buy just pure life insurance, right? You can buy term life insurance, and there's nothing wrong with it. Most of my clients are going to end up with or start out with and have both convertible term and whole life insurance. And then again, you're comparing costs as if that mattered, right? You can't look at the cost in isolation, right? So it's not an investment. Whole life insurance is more like a savings vehicle, right? It's more like a savings account. Term life insurance is the most expensive form of life insurance out there because every single dollar you put into it, you get none of it back, unless, God forbid, you die. And then it's not really a gain. It's just your family being compensated in the event of a catastrophic loss. So every dollar you pay in a term is a pure cost. You don't get any of it back. Plus, then there's the huge opportunity cost of that missing death benefit, that missing legacy. That missing legacy will never be paid out because the term expires. So when your $1 million term policy expires, your estate, your legacy suffered $1 million loss and they lose the $1 million plus everything they could have earned on those $1 million. Whereas with whole life insurance, it's actually the most cost effective form of insurance out there because every dollar you put into it, you will get back and then some. So the cost, if you will, of whole life insurance is actually negative over the long run because you're going to get way more out of it than what you put into it, both in terms of the cash value while you're alive and the death benefit when you die, because whole life will pay out. It's not an if situation, it's a when situation, right? And comparing costs, again, doesn't take into account design, right? The fact that you think a whole life policy costs $123 a month is ridiculous. That's like saying real estate costs $123 per square foot. No, depends on the type of real estate, depends on where it is, right? And myopically focusing on that one metric is shows you don't understand real estate at all. What it costs is a function of how you design it. So I can make whole life cost whatever you want. That's never the focus. The question is, what are we trying to accomplish with this whole life insurance policy? That will then drive how we design it. And what it costs, so to speak, then comes out in the wash. So I showed in that video series, which I guess he didn't really, well, this was the first one. I think it was in a subsequent video in this series, how I can make the cost of whole life insurance vary wildly. It's not 20 times the cost of term. I can make it cost like, I think in one of the example, it costs like 75 times what the cost of term was. But again, that's because that metric is irrelevant. And when you're saying what it costs, you're missing the point. What you're really looking at is not the cost, the true cost. What you're looking at is just the premium payment. That's it. That's it. Okay. The premium payment does not equal the cost. With term, I suppose it does because term is very simple. You just pay a premium and you get the death benefit. With whole life, that's not the case because your premium payment is going to build equity inside of an asset. So if you pay a $10,000 premium into whole life, that does not equate to a $10,000 cost. So, as an example, if I pay a $10,000 premium into my whole life policy and I immediately have $5,000 of cash value available to me, obviously the cost to me is not $10,000. The net premium outlay, not the cost, the net premium outlay then in year one would be $5,000, not $10,000. So, there's so many nuances that you're missing. Really, I would say whole life insurance is its own asset class. This I'm borrowing from somebody else in the industry whose name I forget, but that's what makes it hard to understand is that it really is its own asset class. I would say the best comparison is to real estate, but it's hard to understand. So again, it's not an investment. It's many things, but I would say primarily it's a savings vehicle. It's a savings vehicle. So this comparison of cost doesn't completely misses the point. And yeah, you can buy term life insurance. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with term. I would say buy convertible term with a company that has a competitive whole life product with a good agent, and you've set yourself up very well. So yeah, buy term life insurance. That's fine. So thanks for your comment, Fred. Appreciate it. Okay, Jeffrey Doherty, 7368 says Dave Ramsey owns whole life insurance. Mutual funds don't have a death benefit. Ha ha ha. Is this video a gag? Thanks for your comment, Jeffrey. Yeah, Dave Ramsey does own whole life insurance. You can verify that yourself if you want. Mutual funds don't have a death benefit. Yeah, I don't know if you're deliberately missing what I'm saying, but I was saying criticizing whole life insurance because you get a poor return on investment is like criticizing mutual funds because they don't have a death benefit. The purpose of a mutual fund is not to give you a death benefit. So it would be dishonest for me to criticize mutual funds and say whole life insurance is better than investments because investments don't come with a death benefit. Yeah, of course investments don't come with a death benefit. That's because they're not life insurance. They have a different purpose, right? So criticizing whole life insurance because you get a low return on investment. And when they say return on investment, they're talking about the internal rate of return on your cash value, okay, which is not the total return you get, is not fair because obviously you've never heard me say, put your money into whole life insurance because you'll get a great return on your investment. Again, the people criticizing whole life insurance, they always set up these straw man arguments, right? Saying, oh, you get a terrible return on your investment. Well, show me a life insurance agent who's advertising for whole life because you're going to get a great return on your investment. It's a straw man argument. So I think that analogy is extremely illuminating because when I say don't put your money in mutual funds because it doesn't have a death benefit, people realize how ridiculous that sounds. It's just as ridiculous to say whole life insurance is a terrible investment or don't put your money in whole life insurance because you get a poor return on your investment. I would argue the return on your investment that you get in whole life insurance measured properly is phenomenal. It is phenomenal because the total return you get in whole life insurance, you have to account for all the benefits you're getting, not just the cash value. And there was a study done by a couple of financial professionals, and they said, okay, let's look at the benefits you get from whole life insurance. And then let's compare that to an investment and ask what return on investment would I have to get in that investment in order to match the benefits I'm getting in whole life insurance. And the number they came up with was 17%. 17%. You would have to get a 17% return in your investments to match the benefits you're getting in whole life insurance. So the internal rate of return you're going to get on your cash value might be 4 to 6%, let's say, competitive with a savings account. Let's just call it 4%. Okay. Keep in mind, that's totally net. That's net of taxes, net of fees, net of everything. 4% is what you actually get. When Dave Ramsey says you get 12% in mutual funds, that's a gross number, right? What you actually net out is going to be less than that after taxes and fees. So 4% is what you're actually getting. But you also have the death benefit protection. You also have the long-term care protection. You also have the creditor protection. There could be critical illness protection. There could be disability protection, depending on the policy. Plus, you're protected against volatility, okay, because there's no risk to the downside, right? So you've got to adjust that return for risk and volatility on the investment side to make it a fair apples to apples comparison. So again, the analysis of the critics of whole life insurance is oftentimes so superficial, it's difficult to take it seriously. It's really difficult to take it seriously. It's an incredibly superficial analysis that belies a fundamental misunderstanding and a lack of even those basic attempt to understand whole life insurance. The sorts of mistakes that our critics make should be embarrassing. They should be embarrassed that they are saying these things publicly on large platforms. That's why I like to say my job is I'm just the emperor I am the little boy who points out that the emperor has no clothes. That's who I am. All these people with a lot of these supposed financial credentials oftentimes don't have even the most basic understanding of even the most basic financial concepts. How many of them saw the 2008 financial crash coming? How many of them saw the COVID crash coming? Thanks for your comment, though. I appreciate it, Jeffrey. Okay, here we have another comment, again on the Dave Ramsey video. Fred2123 says, whole life is virtually always touted as an investment. Okay, and then I asked him, show me some examples. Please show me an example. And of course, he didn't. He just said, everyone I have ever talked to various degrees, some emphasized the investment aspect. Some pointed it out. The last time I talked to a whole life agent was 2017. First time was 1969. Come on. You got to actually show me an example, right? Show me somewhere online, somewhere, some video, something where people are touting whole life insurance as an investment. This is a ridiculous straw man argument. Okay. No one is touting whole life as an investment. Okay. Maybe there are a tiny percentage of agents out there who are doing it. Maybe. Okay. But again, I can point out realtors who are presenting real estate in the wrong way. Does that mean I'm going to dismiss all realtors and all real estate as a scam? No, of course not. Of course not. So this is, as always, a straw man argument. No, whole life is not touted as an investment. And if you're going to make an honest criticism of whole life, then you have to go after it in its best light. And you have to go after the agents who are doing it the right way. Because if you're going to concede that, then really what you're saying is you don't have a problem with whole life insurance. You have a problem with agents who are not selling it properly. That's a different objection. And if there are life insurance agents that are not selling whole life insurance properly, then you don't have a problem with whole life insurance per se, right? But you could say that about any financial product. Any financial product out there has people who are not positioning it correctly, who are not selling it in a responsible manner. So, yeah, whole life insurance is no different. Any financial asset, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate, gold, crypto, they all have people who are either actual scam artists or at least people who are presenting it in a dishonest way, either out of ignorance or out of malice. So that to me is meaningless. Yeah, you can point to any financial asset that have people selling it in the wrong way. Okay. So then I asked him for specific examples. He says, of course, I don't know their names anymore. Why would I think it important to remember the names of people who tried to sell me a bad product many years ago? It's like going through your freezer after a 2 week power outage and picking out the last rotten meat. Okay. Then he says, for what it's worth, I just Googled why get whole life insurance, and the first hit was from New York Life, who said you could get $250,000 protection for $273.56 a month. Here we go again, going into irrelevancies. The death benefit and what's the monthly premium? Okay, that's irrelevant. Totally irrelevant. That's like myopically focusing on, hey, what's the cost per square foot for real estate? I just randomly picked out one piece of real estate randomly from a Google search, and here's what it costs per square foot. See, real estate costs $272 per square foot. No, that depends on the real estate. And of course, that doesn't make it bad or good. The question is, what value am I getting from that real estate? And value is subjective. Value is subjective. It depends on where you want to live. It depends on what kind of house you're looking for. Are you buying it as an investment or a place to live in? Same thing with whole life insurance. Value is subjective. I'm going to design a whole life insurance policy for you. For you. Okay. So the right whole life insurance policy might be more quote unquote expensive or less expensive or everything in between. But that's not what we're focused on. We're focused on, okay, what financial problems are you trying to solve? What are your financial goals? How does whole life insurance help you get there? And then we'll design it for you. I don't care what it costs. I care what the value is. Okay. And then he says, compared to a $500,000 term policy, twice as much insurance for $30 a month. The difference at $500,000 is about $516 a month. Put $516 a month into a simple savings account, earning average 2.5% for 30 years, and it grows to $276,000. Put into an S&P 500 index fund, earning average 10%, and it grows to $1,073,000. Okay. I love how they throw this out like it's just dogma. Put it into an S&P 500 index fund, it'll average 10%. Well, okay, average returns are not real returns, and it grows to $1 million. Well, why isn't everyone doing this? If it were really this as easy as these people make it seem, like, hey, just put it into an index fund, then why isn't everyone a millionaire? If it were really that easy, most people would be millionaires. Most people would be millionaires. What you're saying is put $500 a month into an S&P 500 index fund and the average person will be a millionaire. Well, there's a reason why most people are not becoming millionaires. Okay? So that argument is a little fishy. It's a little fishy, okay? Partly it's because average returns are not real returns. Okay? Prove to me you're going to earn 10%. And that 10% is not net, by the way. So you're not actually going to have a million. So if you're saying 10%, you're saying it'll average 10%. So what's the real return though? It'll be something less. And what's your net return after taxes and fees? It'll be less. Okay. What about the sequence of returns risk? If it were really that easy, everybody would be a millionaire. If it were really that easy. There's a Dalbar report that shows the actual returns people are actually getting in the market are less than 3%, 2.9%. So again, that's a silly argument on its face. If it were really that easy, everyone would be a millionaire. But everyone is not a millionaire, so there must be something else going on. Okay. Over 30 years, you paid $10,800 for the term insurance and $185,800 for the whole life policy. And if you die at year 30, your widow gets $500,000 plus $276,000 from the term and $500,000 policy loans from the whole life. Actually, the whole life widow won't get anything because they got sick of paying $560 every month and dropped the whole life policy a lot ago. Okay. There's a lot that's wrong with that. First of all, I would have to see the particular whole life policy, but if it's the sort of policy I'm going to sell, your death benefit is going to grow because it's a participating policy. Okay. And you're going to be running your cash flow through it potentially. So again, these numbers are all irrelevant. You can't dogmatically state whole life costs X. That shows a fundamental misunderstanding of what whole life costs. It's like saying real estate costs X. It doesn't. And what it costs is irrelevant. The question is, what are you trying to accomplish with it? And that drives how you design it. So again, getting lost into irrelevant numbers, irrelevant details when your whole premise is wrong. So if you want to invest your money in the S&P 500, okay. My question is, do you think you should have some emergency savings? Do you think you should have a cash position? How much do you think you should have in cash? How much do you think you should have in emergency savings or in an opportunity fund? That's my question to you. However much you think you should have in cash or in emergency savings, move that into whole life insurance. You're saying a simple savings account earning 2.5%. Okay. Well, on whole life insurance, you'll earn north of 4%. And that's net of taxes and fees. Plus, you're getting the death benefit protection, plus the long term care protection, plus the creditor protection, plus the policy loan feature, etc. And it will make your investments better because when the market is down in retirement, you won't have to raid your investments. You can instead pull from your whole life insurance policy. So again, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. You're again comparing it to an investment, which is dishonest. So whole life insurance makes all your other assets better because a lot of what makes whole life insurance so great isn't to be found in the whole life insurance policy illustration itself. It's how it makes everything else about your financial picture so much better. So if you want to invest, you can invest safely and better if you have whole life insurance as your foundation. Okay. So again, there's a lot of things wrong with these numbers here. Obviously, it's funny. Again, you do a Google search on a New York Life policy, and you conclude you know about whole life. Okay, I can design the policy a whole lot of different ways. You have to do a little bit more analysis than doing a Google search on a New York Life policy. Okay, that's like me doing a Google search on investing and say, "See, I'm a professional investor now. I know what I'm doing." Okay, there we go. All right. Ask why 00 said, why would the top 10% of Americans be watching Dave Ramsey? Seems like the 90% of Americans would be more his core audience demographic. And it appears that Ramsey is trying to get Americans out of debt without selling them yet another financial product. I don't see the issue with that. I 100% agree with you. I think Dave Ramsey is great. As I said in the video, as I made it clear, I think he's great. I think he does more good than harm. I think he's giving great advice for his audience. So I 100% agree with you. But I would say he is trying to sell them. Come on. Dave Ramsey is making money. He runs a profitable business. Okay. But I don't think it's evil to sell products. The implication is always that it's evil for me to sell whole life insurance, but Dave Ramsey selling other stuff is fine. He has a whole network of financial advisors whose job it is to sell financial products, and Dave Ramsey makes money directly and indirectly from all that. Dave Ramsey makes a lot of money. He is a cash flowing machine. His business is very profitable. I have no problem with that. But let's not pretend like Dave Ramsey is running a charity and he's giving objective financial advice. No, he's just as biased as everybody else. We all have our biases. Dave Ramsey has his biases, he has his opinions, and he has his financial motivations. I do too. Okay. So Dave Ramsey is trying to sell people financial products. That's the whole purpose of his show. Okay. But I agree with you. I really don't disagree with you. I don't see an issue with Dave Ramsey with his advice for a lot of Americans who are struggling with debt. I think he's giving them great advice. So I'm not really disagreeing with you. Jim Smith 3435 says Dave Ramsey gives advice that is good for the customer. What your industry offers is snake oil. The smoke and mirrors you guys use to make a commission is not only dishonest but should be outlawed. I am fortunate enough to be able to achieve financial success, and I didn't achieve this with insurance products. I hate annuities, and you should too. Thanks for your comment, Jim Smith. I'm glad you've achieved financial advice. I don't see any actual substantive argument in your comment, just a bunch of talking points that you are parroting from Wall Street. So there's really not anything for me to respond to because you haven't made any substantive points. You just are repeating talking points. So that's fine. Maybe when you substantiate some of your claims and make a substantive argument, I will respond to it. But I actually agree with you. Dave Ramsey does give advice that is good for his audience. I agree. I agree with you there. I agree with you there. It requires someone who's a little bit more sophisticated and a little bit more disciplined to understand the benefits of whole life insurance. I'm glad to hear you reached financial success. You say you didn't achieve this with insurance products. Well, I'm assuming you had, I don't know, car insurance or homeowners insurance or term life insurance. I hope. I hope. No one's saying that life insurance is going to make you rich. I do believe whole life insurance can add rocket fuel to whatever you're doing. It can accelerate your wealth building exercise, but you're not going to get rich because of whole life insurance. Nobody's saying that. But I'm glad you've achieved financial success, Jim. Great to hear. Congratulations on your success. Okay, then Tobarja responds and says Jim Smith 3435 Whole Life offers guarantees. It will pay the death benefit. Properly designed, your cash value will never decrease. Also, properly designed, the commission is minimal and dollar for dollar, much less than term. Thanks for the comment, Tabarja. I appreciate it. Yeah, what you're saying is true. I will also say I don't understand why commission is a bad thing. Like the premise is that in order for me to help my customers, I have to slit my own throat. Like the only way for me to add value to my customers is to reduce the value going to myself. If that were true, then Karl Marx was right. Profit making is evil, and we all need to quit and go home. If that were really true, I could not succeed as a business owner. That is the exact opposite of the truth. The only way you make more money is by adding more value to your customers. So if I make a higher commission overall, it's because I'm adding more value. So a higher commission is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. The reason why commissions are higher is because people are adding more value, right? Now, when you say the commission is minimal, I know what you mean. It depends on design, right? It depends on design. So that's kind of a subjective measure, right? It gets back to cost, commission. It's subjective in terms of how you measure it. Is it the commission per dollar of premium? Is the commission per dollar of death benefit? Like, how are you measuring that? I do believe that people who design whole life insurance for high cash value actually end up making more commission over the long run. Although it's true, they make less commission per dollar of premium going into the policy. That's true. But at the end of the day, you make a lot more money by adding value to your customers at the end of the day. You may not make as much money in the short term. You may not make as much money on the sale of the policy today. But yeah, I agree with you. And I think it maybe is important to point out that the way we design policies actually reduces our commission. But I reject the whole premise behind that argument because it's the Marxist premise. It's the exact opposite of the truth. The best companies out there, the most innovative, the most successful, the ones who add the most value to people have the highest profit margins. So more profitability, whether you call it a commission or profit or whatever, is a good thing. Is a good thing, not a bad thing. Okay. Then Ethan Shy 280 says, I'm top 10% for my age group and I love Dave Ramsey. Since getting on baby step 7, my net worth has skyrocketed, debt free, and not a care in the world. Well, congratulations, Ethan. Great to hear you've done so well. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the comment and congratulations on your success. So, thanks everyone for commenting. That's it for now. Talk soon. Bye bye.